Curtin Radio.
As I mentioned in my introduction, the Murdoch family recently resolved its long-running succession dispute, and the fallout for the Murdoch children has shattered family relationships, which was reported by media worldwide. Why did this happen? Alex Martin believes that Rupert Murdoch didn't have a clear and unchallenged succession plan in place. Welcome to the afternoon show, Alex. I appreciate your time today. I'm sorry, Alex, say that again. Are you there?
Yes, it's a pleasure
fantastic.
to be here.
Great. Thank you very much for your time today, as I mentioned. Now, Alex, what does an unchallenged succession plan mean?
Well, a succession plan that everyone's agreed to, that's the key here. I think you can sit down and write any plan you like, but unless everyone who's involved in the plan agrees to what it's going to look like, then you end up in court like the Murdochs did.
So when you say an unchallenged succession plan, does that mean that all the parameters involved in the deal have to be agreed to by everybody? That's the essential definition of it, is it?
Yeah, that's right. My recommendation is always for everybody. That's the people who run the business, the people who are potentially going to take it over, and the people impacted by that all sit down together and work out what the future is going to look like and all agree up front.
Now, with all of Rupert Murdoch's power and fortune, Alex, I find it incredulous that he wasn't advised by his legal counsel to formulate a succession plan that would be impossible to dispute. So what was the nature of the dispute between the Murdoch siblings?
Yes, well, it is quite amazing. Rupert Murdoch had 6 children, but only 4 of them had a vote in the family trust, which really controlled the business empire. And that was the issue. There was 4 of them, and they were all voting on different lines. So although four people with 4 votes sounds even, what happened is really people divided up. Some supported James and some supported Lachlan, and they both had different visions for the way that the business was going to go.
Now, the net worth of Murdoch Media Empire, that includes News Corp and Fox Corp, is estimated at $24.4 billion, which most Australians will never achieve. So, Alex, is succession planning for regular Australians important? Why does it matter?
Yes, it does matter for everyone. So, I mean, ultimately, everybody has some level of wealth. They have their house, they have their car, they have their usually they want to look after their children. And so for regular people, that's really just a will. For people who own a business or run a business, involved in a business, then you normally need to go beyond the will and have a plan that goes into your business assets, so that's through your family trust or through your company or whatever it is. And most Australians, in fact, a lot of Australians have relatively significant wealth that they want to make sure that they pass on to their children or they pass on to the people that they want to look after they're gone.
So when disputes happen, it's normally because obviously people feel they're not being looked after to the level they probably expected. But really, how much power of the parents or the person involved in organising their succession plan, I mean, how much power have they got to make those decisions without being challenged, especially for regular Australians, that is, not people that are part of the sort of elite mega wealthy of the country?
Well, if the mega wealthy can't get it right, you wonder how the rest of the
I'm getting that right. I'm feeling that too, Alex. I'm telling you, with this story, totally, yeah. Yes,
I understand. But I think Rupert Murdoch did what everybody does. I mean, he might be mega wealthy, but he's ultimately just a father like anyone else. And what he did is say, well, I'm just going to give everyone a vote, and that sounds even. I'm finished. That's my succession plan. And that's the problem, that people don't actually talk about, well, what does that look like? What does that mean for everyone? Where is everyone in their life? Where are they likely to be when I pass away? They're all questions that people like to really push on to worry about, to not worry about, because they think, well, this is all difficult to confront, so I don't want to deal with it. But the reality that the surest thing in life is that all of us will die, and that something's going to come after that. And so having a discussion about that and people being involved in that decision making and then agreeing is the best protection you can have.
So we're talking about around the kitchen table or around the dinner table, or are we talking about actually go to a lawyer with everybody present to make sure their feelings are felt initially, so it sort of probably clears the path for the succession plan to be developed?
Yeah, great questions. So I'd be recommending that people have the discussion around the kitchen table to start with, and then the people who are making the succession plan, that's the people who own the family home or own the business, then go off to a lawyer on their own. They don't need everyone there for the legal discussion. But it's actually the family discussion that's the most important thing. In the case of Rupert Murdoch, they've got 4 people who vote. So you go, well, what if they deadlock? What do we do about that? Do we appoint, if he'd appointed Lachlan at that time, who ended up in charge of the empire, if he'd appointed Lachlan and everyone had agreed to that, then he could have broken any deadlock and there would have been no dispute. And so it's having that discussion and then that discussion then being documented through the legal channels that's the way to go.
So you're sitting around the dinner table, you have a discussion, all of a sudden a dispute seems to be manifesting itself.
Yes.
What do you do from that point onwards, Alex?
Yes. So that's a very good question, and that's what people are worried about. They're worried about having a dispute with their children, or their children having a dispute with each other, or whatever it is, and so they don't face it. And I suppose my point is that you're better off having that discussion while you're around, while you're feeling good, while everybody's still getting on, rather than waiting till you're gone and then hoping that they'll sort it out amongst themselves. The reality is they're much less likely to sort it out then. If you do have difficulties, then you can have a mediation. You can have a third party come in and help you, or you can go to a solicitor, get some advice, or look at different options and just talk it out. The reality is good communication while you're all still feeling good and you're all friends is much more likely to solve a problem than later on after you've gone.
Great advice. Now, we're talking in succession planning, obviously, but is it the same as getting your will formulated, I should say, or
yes.
is it the same as a power of attorney? Is it all inclusive? Yes. Is it all part of the same planning?
Great question. So one of the real misunderstandings in this area is if you've done your will, you're finished. And for some people, it is true that the will is to do with your personal assets. So anything you own personally, usually that's your house, your your car, your whatever that you own. Usually real estate's owned personally. If you have and that's all you own, then your will is enough. But if you own a business, so normally that's through a company or through a trust or through some other entity, then your will does not cover your business assets. So if you own a business, you need a succession planning. So succession planning is a will for regular people who don't own any business. But if you have a business, then you need to deal with your succession plan as a whole. So that might be the constitution of the company or the shareholder agreement. You might be in business with your brother or your sister or your uncle or whatever. All of that the arrangements for those dealings need to be dealt with as part of an overall succession plan. Who takes over if you die or your brother dies, or if you're unable to make decisions, who makes decisions for you. So usually there's a personal aspect, which is your will, and then there's a business aspect, which is your company or your trust.
Talking about the business side of things, can you explain what appointerships are here in Australia?
An appointership sale?
No, a appointership. Can you explain what an appointership is?
Yes. So
regarding a family trust or a
yes.
Or
someone. Normally, the appointor of a trust is the decision maker, so they can appoint or disappoint, that is, sack the trustee of the trust. So normally that's the person who has the most power in a trust arrangement, and often it's them who are the person who decides whether to sell an asset or to whether they sell the family home, or whether they maybe they do some renovations to it before they sell it, or they paint it or whatever. All those kind of practical decisions about selling an asset or dealing with assets are normally dealt with by the appointor of the trust.
So the appointership of the trust as well as the succession planning work hand in hand, obviously, when it comes to business.
Yes, that's exactly right. You've hit the nail on the head. So that's the issue. You have your personal will, which might deal with your house, and then you have your family trust, which a lot of people have. It's a very sensible structure that a lot of people have to minimise tax and to protect their assets. Whoever controls the family trust, they need to be that needs to change over when you pass away. That your son or your daughter or your brother or whatever should become the appointor of the trust or the trustee of the trust to look after it. And then in your will, you deal with your personal assets, so that the NAB would be the executor of the will. So they're slightly different concepts. One's for business and one's for personal assets.
Final question. For those that may be listening to this interview and now understand the importance of succession planning, how should they start their planning process?
Yes, great question. So the first thing you do is sit down with the people. So sit down, husband, wife, children, whatever, and talk about what they see as the future might look like. So if they've got a business, does the eldest son want to take over the business, or doesn't he? Is the daughter interested? Aren't they? That sort of thing. So you have a general idea of what you would like to happen that everybody has agreed to, and then you'd go to a solicitor and say, okay, this is what I want to do. How do I make that happen?
Alex, can't thank you enough for making these very clear what succession planning is. I think it's pretty important. People in their senior years that want to sort of make the final plans or the final moves towards their retirement, or they're leaving their assets to their family and so forth. I think it's essential that this gets done as soon as possible, while everybody's in a good state of mind, as you said, as well as in a very clear state of mind.
Yes, well, thank you. I think it is a very important issue, particularly, when you're dealing with people you have a little bit of wealth. It's a real shame to that wealth to lead to family conflict instead of leading to happiness and ease of life for your children or for whoever you want to leave that money to. You want to make the most of it.
Agreed. Alex, can't thank you enough. Have a wonderful day, and I look forward to having a chat to you in the future about matters that are legal. I should mention the fact that Alex Martin is a business lawyer and litigation expert and a partner at Taurus Legal Management. Thanks again, Alex. Look forward to your time in the future.
It's a pleasure.